Our speaker this morning, Bernie Emanuel, is a facilitator of change with a master's degree in counseling and human development. He has a wide experience of clinical and administrative responsibilities over several decades, employed and consulting in organizational development and behavioral medicine. Bernie has been an active member of numerous boards and organizations over the years and is currently involved in a number of activities around trauma-sensitive care and racial conciliation. Bernie.
Good morning. So I don't know what's up, because since I've turned 70, I hear Bobby play We Shall Overcome in that unique, incredible way that he does, and I just cry. What's up with that? It's all your fault. I feel honored to be able to be here today to share with you about the Equal Justice Initiative and then the projects that we have going on in Escambia County. Escambia County is one of at least 440 counties in our nation who have a documented history of lynching. The Equal Justice Initiative was started by Brian Stevenson and a group of folks, and these remembrance projects are a part of what they do. One of the main things they do is they deal with people on death row. And they have a stable of attorneys who are in there doing hard work all the time, and I just have incredible admiration for them and their organization. This morning I'd like to focus on a couple things. One is what the remembrance projects are and kind of what the status of that is in Escambia County. And then I'd like to just share my personal findings of having been involved in this process. First, as far as EJI is concerned, what they're trying to do, from my understanding, is to create an understanding of what happened in our history as an introduction into a larger community dialogue for racial reconciliation. Their founder, Brian Stevenson, one of his quotes that I really love is, "Truth and reconciliation are sequential." We can't heal the divide between us as an individual or as a race or as a nation until we can speak the truth about what has happened. And that's what this whole thing about the lynching is about, is to tell the truth. It's not about blaming. It's not about shaming. It's about speaking the truth so that we can reconcile. EJI recommends 3 remembrance projects for communities. We have completed one of those in our community, thanks to the loving heart and hard work of Julie Patton, who created a group called Race and Reconciliation and met for a number of years. We've formed a subcommittee from that to manage the first of the EJI projects, the soil collection. The idea is to literally collect soil from the site where lynchings took place. In EJI's perspective, there were 6 official lynchings that occurred between 1877 and 1950. Our group members, some of whom are members of your congregation and have a lot of history in dealing with lynching and such, believe that there are more than those 6. I also believe there are more than those 6, but those are the 6 official ones that are on the monument that's hanging in that incredible place in Montgomery that I'll talk about a little bit more. But as far as the soil collection is concerned, 2 of our lynchings took place in Plaza Ferdinand in downtown Pensacola, where individuals who were incarcerated were taken out of jail, they were murdered, they were hung up on a lamppost in Plaza Ferdinand, and we did our best to collect soil from a place adjacent to where that took place. We also went out into the country to where we approximated where the other 4 lynchings took place and collected soil there. The soil is put in gallon mason jars that are named and dated for the people who are being remembered there. And we have those to go to the memorial, the Legacy Museum in Montgomery, where EJI's home is. We also collected some to keep in our community, and we're still somewhat evolving our criteria for who else besides those 6 might be recognized. We're not there yet, but what I foresee is there's going to be more than the original 6. With the help of several arts groups in the community, we've created these little teardrop glass containers that are beautiful, that'll contain the soil for our local exhibit, and then we'll put it into like a trunk show to be able to go around to places. I mean, we could have, in theory, we could have it here where you could see that. So we had a ceremony down in Plaza Ferdinand where we ceremonially collected the soil for those 2 sites there. And y'all, it was like a miracle happened. One of the 2 men that were remembered is alleged to have murdered a woman on Scenic Highway, or the railroad tracks that run around along where Scenic Highway is now. A relative of hers had put up a lot of very negative stuff on social media and such, and showed up with his partner and placards with the intention of disrupting the ceremony. And through the grace of God and just patience of us who were involved, it ended up that instead of it being a confrontation, that guy and his woman were brought into the ceremony that we created so that his relative, Miss Lily, was able to be recognized for the tragedy that occurred to her, in addition to a remembrance of the man who is alleged to have committed that crime. It was a remarkable moment, and right around that and other things, I'm involved with a group in Baldwin County that's doing this, and in Mobile County as well. I've seen, it's like there's this undercurrent, there's this river of grace that is flowing underneath these efforts. And it just manifests itself from time to time. I'm not in charge of that. None of us are. But that's what happened that day, is that there was a profound healing that took place because we got out of the way and let it happen. I'm grateful to have been a part of that day. The group is still reforming and figuring out how we're going to do the next project, the historic marker. You have to do a letter of intent, and that has to be approved, and then you go through a process where you're given the parameters for a high school essay contest that coincides with the marker project. I think we've basically finished the recommended, the proposal for the intent to do the project. I think we've basically put together the initial draft of the wording to go on the historic marker, which is, like a big highway marker. On one side, we'll have information about the 6 folks whom we're recognizing, probably more language about the 2 that are there at that place in Plaza Ferdinand. And then on the other side is information that EJI really wants to have included because, there's so much I don't know. But I'm learning that lynching was not just about crimes that happened and wanting to punish those people without a trial. It was a form of racial terror that was imposed on whole communities of people of color. And it was a key contributor to the great exodus out of the South of the African American community up to cities in the North. I never really understood that. A lot of people have written about it, and I'm learning. Scott's one who's written eloquently about it here locally, and I'm grateful for that, to continue to learn in that way. It's our intent to put the historic monument down in Plaza Ferdinand. If we're able to put it at the exact spot where that lamp pole used to be, we'll try to do that. And then we'll have a dedication ceremony. And at that unveiling, we'll also announce and share the winner of the high school essay contest. And that would sort of put a period on the second of the three projects. The third is the monument. So at the Monument to Peace and Justice in Montgomery, I know some of you have been there, but if you haven't, do yourself a favor, because it's almost a life-changing kind of a thing. I don't know if y'all remember when the young woman created and won the design for the Vietnam War wall. Do you remember that? And do you remember the criticism that came to the wall? Because that's not what a monument looks like. You know what I mean? And yet, it's one of the most emotionally evocative, healing places in all the mall because of that unique, wonderful, and inspired design. And I believe the same is true for the monument in Montgomery. They're 8-foot monoliths of steel, 8 feet tall, 3 feet wide, 2 feet thick, with the county's name and the people who were lynched. And they are hanging in this museum. There's over 400 of them, or 800 or something. And it's just so powerful to walk around and look up and walk among them. And they're hanging, they're suspended there. There's a replica for the one for Escambia County that's hanging there, and that replica is offered to our community. And so that will be the third project, is to bring that monument to Pensacola. And, I have no idea where it will end up going. There are those in our group who believe it should take place there in Plaza Ferdinand because there's so much lynching history there. My personal opinion is that it's of such import and opportunity that we've got to create a community-wide dialogue about that placement and use that as a way of interacting with people of similar and different points of view so that we're able to evolve a place for its placement that works for as many of our citizens as we can do. So that will be the third EJI project, is hanging the monument and the dialogue associated with that. I hope that all of that leads to a larger community conversation about healing in both race and gender issues that are occurring in our nation and in our community. And now I want to just share a few of my findings, my personal findings, and having been involved in this. First is what I said about the river of grace. I believe we are involved in a much larger healing right now. As on a national level, we're somehow being given permission to hate each other and yell at each other and call each other names and all the stuff that I see going on. At the same time, I think that there is an undercurrent of healing that's occurring in many ways, and especially in my awareness in race and gender. And what I'm trying my best to do is to just, as an old Native American elder told me once, is to be a hollow bone. To be a hollow bone. To do the work to clean out my vehicle so that I don't keep any of grace from flowing through me. And that's my first learning, is that what's going on here is much larger than me or you or this community. There's a kind of a healing occurring, and I hope that every one of us is a part of it. Second is you have to be willing to be uncomfortable. I remember the lurch in my guts the first time I was confronted with the term white privilege, and I was like, wait a minute, I was a conscientious objector, and I was in the Peace Corps, and I'm a nice guy, what is all this about white privilege? And I'm learning as time goes on that I have more stereotypical biases and prejudices than I ever knew, and that I'm learning each day. And to undo that self-perception into a more open way is a kind of change that's not easy. For any of us to change some of those basic things that we have believed and feel, especially about ourselves, is hard. And that's I believe one of the necessities to do this work having to do with race and gender is that we have to be willing to be uncomfortable. The third is what I call non-dual teaching. I study a Franciscan fellow named Richard Rohr, and he talks a lot about non-dual thinking. I was fortunate to have a great education, formal education, and in the scientific way, you decide this either is or isn't. It's yes or no. It's black or it's that way. And what I've come to understand is that when you're dealing with these deep, tough social issues, it can be black and white at the same time. It can be right and wrong at the same time. That person who's saying point A, that's very different than that person saying point B, can both be right at the same time. And so it's incumbent on us to, for me, prayerfully open to other perspectives than my own, and to be able to hold apparently opposing truths as true at the same time. Patience. Don't you laugh at me, Brent. Doing these projects, I just want to get in there and get them done, you know what I mean? But we're working by committee, and we're working in cultures that don't move the way that Bruni moves. And so that's another lesson for me, is to just be patient as we're walking through this. I believe there's one in charge of all this, and it ain't me, babe. and my job is to sort of step back and do what I can in the moment. God's given me some gifts as far as facilitation and such, and I just want to use what gifts I have. And I'm not looking for recognition or adulation or any of that. I just want to help get it done. And I'm learning that it has to go at its own time, not at mine. And then as far as the future is concerned, I believe that the dialogue that will be created around the placement of the monument will open a conversation in our community for a much greater healing. And that's where there's an opportunity for you. I think there are at least 2, if not 3, main opportunities for involvement if you, as a congregant or as a community citizen, are interested. One is the essay contest. We haven't organized that yet, but some of you may be really facile with doing essay contests or how all that goes. There's an opportunity there, I believe, for community involvement. Secondly, the community conversation that takes place when the monument placement is being discussed. I hope you bring your best self to that conversation, every one of you, and help us as a community move more toward reconciliation, toward peace, and toward some kind of agreement on where that monument goes. Those are the things that I see as opportunities for you as a congregation. And now I'm open to questions or comments.
Have you run across the term white fragility?
No, but I heard that.
Yeah. We had we're from up north, and recently we had African American presentation that turned into quite a disaster because it was all about white privilege, really. When we talked about redlining and sundowning laws, which the North had. You guys didn't have that.
Oh, yeah, we did.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we had it more. So we got into an argument on Facebook that was quite. So White Fragility, it's a book that you might enjoy reading.
All right, thank you. I can tell you from my own experience that being confronted about one's white privilege, or it might be male privilege, can be, it's easy to react to that. You know what I'm saying? And so I can see where the term white fragility comes from, because we're fragile in our long-held beliefs, and it's hard to change. And that's why I said one of my main findings is, in order to do this work, you have to be willing to be uncomfortable. Other comments or questions? Yes?
I just had a suggestion for placement of the monument.
Ooh.
All right, I think it needs to be at City Hall, in the lobby when you first walk in City Hall, like where the mayor is.
Wow. That's powerful.
Right outside his office would be awesome.
That is powerful.
Or my second choice would be at the courthouse, when you first walk into the courthouse.
The one that's being rebuilt, the federal courthouse?
Escambia courthouse.
Blanchard Building.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, right in front, either right, if it's going to be an outside monument, like right out front, or better yet, inside, where you have to see it every time you walk in there. All those attorneys and all those judges have to see it every day. I like that idea.
Great idea. And what's going to happen is there's going to be a lot of ideas about where it might be placed. You know, we've got a Confederate memorial up on the hill. Then you come down the hill, and there's Galvez, and there's Martin's bust, and then there's Peter King's thing. And then down at the end, there's the DeLuna, or down there on the waterfront. And, you know, the university is doing a walk of sorts behind what was the T.T. Wentworth Museum, going directly east into Seville area there. That was talked about as a possibility. I've heard several different possibilities discussed, but for me, it's a community decision, not Bruni's decision. You know what I'm saying? So that's where we'll move. Thank you for that. Yes? Anybody? Okay, I thank you for the opportunity to be with you today.